Okay, good morning. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Let's see if she sent it to me. Okay, if I could have roll call, please.
Michael Cuevas.
Here.
Rick Stopek.
Here.
Barbara Roth.
Here.
Dagmar Bras. Serge DeHady.
Present.
Sherry Scarborough.
Here.
Barissa Laudas. Penny Pompey. Glenn Groman. Ankur Patel.
Here.
Angela Van. Brian Stenberg.
Here.
David Searle. We have quorum.
All right, thank you. If we could stand for Pledge of Allegiance. Sherry, would you mind leading us? All right, thank you very much. Do we have proof of publication?
Yes, sir, we do.
All right, thank you. And do we have any postponements on the agenda?
No, sir.
All right. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda? All right, thank you. I need a second. That was Sherry. Need a second? I guess Rick will second. Yeah, sure. Is that okay?
Yep.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. All right, consideration of minutes. You're going to have a chance to read the minutes? No, that was the of the agenda. Consideration of the minutes.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Anyone opposed? Great. Motion passes unanimously. All right. So going right to the. I don't see any comments by the public. Do we have any comments? Great. Thank you. And comments by the chair. I just want to thank everyone for giving me the opportunity here. Thank you to our past chair who wasn't here last year or last year. Maybe he wasn't here last year. I don't know. Thank you to the chair for your hard work last year and the opportunity to be here today. So thank you. And thank you to Sherry for keeping me in line up here now. That's all I have today. All right, public hearing. We're going to go on to the next item. And I was reading that from my phone, so it's a little odd for me to be reading it. Next time I'll make sure I have it ready for myself. The first thing on the public hearing item is, thank you, the Haverhill Recovery Facility. And we will hear from the applicant.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Randall Granberry, RDG Development Group. I'm representing the applicant. We're having a little technical difficulties. I guess my email didn't go through. So basically, I'm just going to go over the land use change that we're proposing here today. And I'm going to introduce Harrison. He is the operator of the facility.
Can you speak closer to the mic?
Sure. I'm just introducing myself. I'm Harrison Katzen. I'm one of the operators and tenants. Can you hear me okay? Sure. A little closer. Okay. I guess I'm the potential tenant of the property, so I'm just here to participate in whatever way I can, provide some background.
And my name is Michael Silverman. Our group is the contract purchaser and the developer of the site, working with the tenant and RDG Development on this project.
Once again, thank you for having us. Basically, the amendment proposes to change the future land use of the designation of the 3.97 acres site located in the urban suburban tier. on the west side of North Haverhill Road in the medium residential 5-unit zoning district, to institutional and public facilities, and underlining 5 units per acre. Support the site has not been subject to a previous land use amendment and is currently supports a vacant single-family home. The concurrent zoning application is proposed and developed a 100-bed skilled nursing residential treatment facility totaling 31,000 square feet. So basically, I'm going to let Harrison step up here and just explain what the facility is and what he will be operating on the site.
Thanks, Randall. So I operate behavioral health facilities across the country. Currently operate 3 in South Florida, 1 in Dade County, 1 in Deerfield, and another one, there's actually 2 in Palm Beach County, 1 in Singer Island, which is Singer Island Health, and the other one in Pahokee, which is in West Palm Beach, or in Palm Beach County. Did you need me to reference them?
No.
No? Okay. Apologies. So we treat patients who suffer from behavioral health disorders. That could be schizophrenia, depression, anxiety, trauma, PTSD. We also treat veterans across the country, and we treat co-occurring disorders as well. A lot of times this requires an element of stabilization, which is a subacute level of care. So after a patient comes out of a hospital system, in Palm Beach County, we work specifically with Jupiter Medical, Good Samaritan Hospital, St. Mary's. They typically come to one of our facilities for a level of care and stabilization. They're with us from anywhere from 7 to 30 days at that inpatient location. And then we typically try and find some level of transitionary supportive housing where they can continue their care for co-occurring outpatient treatment at that point in time. Our patients on average stay with us for around 45 to 90 days. We have some of the best outcomes in the country. We treat around 10,000 patients per year. I have grown up in Palm Beach County. My father was a physician and ophthalmologist here. The county is near and dear to my heart, so I take it seriously when we operate and we treat the constituents of our county accordingly. And I would love the opportunity to make a positive impact on the community at this location. I'm happy to answer any questions about the services that we provide, the providers, the medical director, psychiatrists, nurses, technicians. We employ a lot of people in the county. I anticipate to hope to do so, but I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm trying to help out with any information I can at this time, so I came here to kind of speak to you guys for that reason.
So we concur with staff's recommendation that the amendment is compatible with the adjacent residential uses and represent an opportunity to allow services and facilities that are badly needed in the urban and suburban development area. The concurrent site plan provides a design with the scale, mass, and intensity and character consistent with the existing development pattern around it. If you have any questions, we're here to answer any questions for you.
All right. Thank you. Now we'll have, that's it? You're complete?
That's it.
All right. Now we'll have a presentation from staff, please.
Yes. Our planner, Peter Germain, will be, he's the project manager. He'll be presenting.
Great. Thank you.
Good morning. Peter Germain with the Plan Division. The item before you is the privately initiated small-scale future land use Atlas Amendment Haverhill Recovery Facility. All right. On 3.97 acres, the subject site is located on the west side of North Haverhill Road, approximately 1 mile north of Okeechobee Boulevard in the urban-suburban tier. The applicant is proposing a future land use amendment from medium residential with 5 units per acre to institutional and public facilities with underlying 5 units per acre. The concurrent zoning application intends to rezone the site to institutional and public facilities and to develop a 100-bed skilled nursing residential treatment facility total 31,000 square feet. All right, here's an aerial of the area. The red star indicates the site. You have the Turnpike to the west, Roebuck Road to the north, Okeechobee Boulevard to the south, and Military Trail to the east. Here's a closer look of the site and the surrounding area. The site consists of 2 lots under the same ownership. The easternmost lot currently has a single-family home, and the west side is vacant. Adjacent to the site to the north and west, you have other single-family homes on 2-acre lots. East of the site, we have Palm Lake condominiums, and immediately to the south and beyond is Century Village, which is a senior multifamily housing community, and to the southeast corner is Tennis Club of Palm Beach condominiums. Some background of the institutional and public facilities future land use. With the creation of the 1989 Comprehensive Plan, only existing institutional uses were assigned an institutional and public facilities future land use designation. Therefore, no criteria were established in the plan to determine the appropriate location for future institutional designations and are considered on a case-by-case basis. Staff has concluded that the amendment is compatible with the adjacent residential uses and represents an opportunity to allow services and facilities consistent with the needs of urban and suburban development. The proposed intensity and character is consistent with the existing development pattern. And staff has determined from the applicant's requests and research of the site's history, the development pattern of the area, the site design, and the use proposed, that the future land use amendment request for institutional and public facilities is consistent with relevant policies of the comp plan and meets all levels of service standards. Staff is recommending approval with conditions, and the motion is also approval with conditions. To ensure compatibility with the residential uses in the area, the conditions of approval are development of the site. One, development of the site is limited to a skilled nursing facility or residential treatment center use with a maximum of 31,000 square feet and comprising no more than 100 beds or residents. 2, the development order shall require a 6-foot wall on the north and west sides of the property, excluding emergency access, which shall provide screening with an opaque gate. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I will have questions from the commission. I'll start right here.
Yes, for staff, I think, Mr. Germain, the conditions which you have presented to us, have those been agreed to?
Yes, the conditions have been agreed to.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to go down the line. Go ahead, Michael.
Did I see something in the conditions? I guess it's right or not. About a landscape buffer, or is just the 6-foot wall? Because you're not going to be able to see beyond the wall. There's no need for any sort of landscape buffer on the adjacent west or north side.
So
I thought I read that.
Buffers required. This is just related to having a wall.
Okay.
You know, as far as noise and mitigation.
So it's not it's not a condition. I read it last night, but I didn't see it in the. Okay. No, I looked at the report last night. As far as the use, it seems pretty consistent with other properties nearby along Haverhill. There was no of the.
Can't hear anything back here.
Yeah, I don't. Is that it? Okay, there we go. I don't know which one of these buttons it was. None of the neighboring properties.
Please repeat what you just said. I'm sorry, we didn't hear you.
I had a question regarding the condition for a landscape buffer, but it was not a condition for approval.
No, the last thing that you were saying.
My question was, I was just going to say, as far as use, it looks compatible with other uses along Haverhill based on the staff report I looked at last night. It doesn't look like any of the neighboring properties are here today or made any comments.
We have comments.
Oh, we do have comments.
We do have
okay, so we're
comment
waiting
cards.
for that. Okay,
Yes.
so this is just specifically questions for staff.
I think I'm supposed
Yeah,
to
I
go
don't
to comment cards.
have any specific questions for
cards.
staff at this time. Thank you.
We have how many? do comment cards now. Yep. My apologies. We do need to go to the comment cards. Sherry?
First, Diana Castellan Weir. I'm sorry. Opposed?
No, just have them come up. Just
Okay.
have them come up and then they'll just have them come up and they will go ahead and
Right,
go
don't
to.
I read it?
Yep.
You need me to stand there, you said?
And then we'll have Bonnie Roberts and Elaine Hoyt.
Right here?
If you want to come up and go to the podium number 2.
You want me to go there?
Bonnie.
Okay.
And then after that, we'll have Brian Macho and Michael Williams.
Can I begin?
Yes, please state your
I'm
name
going to
and
read a letter
address.
that I'm going to leave with you guys, okay?
So everyone's limited to 3 minutes, just so you know. Comments are limited.
This conversation just
Thank
took
you.
some minutes off. So I wrote a letter for you guys because unfortunately what you said does not really go with our neighborhood. We are single-family homes.
Can you please
Right.
step closer to the microphone so we can hear you?
Yeah. Okay. So what you said is that this actually has to do a lot with the pattern that it is on Haverhill. But unfortunately, what's affecting us in reality is that they do not have any pattern with our neighborhood. We are the Horseshoe neighborhood. The property that they purchased is a Horseshoe neighborhood single-family home. It used to be used for some electric company, granted, but they used to service on the Haverhill Road. They want to have access to our private road, a private road that it is used for us to ingress and egress. So I would like to ask you guys to please not approve this. Although you guys already changed our zoning category before in 2018, I stood here and I asked you guys to please not do that because our safety of the neighborhood was going to be affected by the development of that company. Time passed and here we are again. So I don't know what we have to do as a neighborhood to appeal to your better judgment, but this does not comply with our family. We are biological families, not community families. We live in single-family homes. We have been there for a very long time. We used to have a covenant that used to restrict things like this. And because we did not have an association, we lost the privilege of using a lot of the things that were in that covenant. You guys are approving things that are going to put us all at risk. And I do not think that us being citizens of the United States need to be oppressed in this matter. Palm Beach County has the right and the responsibility to keep us safe. You guys keep us safe. If they build this in our neighborhood, because it's not on Haverhill, guys, they want to have an emergency exit that goes into our road. If you let them build this in our neighborhood, you're putting us all at risk. Do you understand what I'm saying? I said this to you guys last time. I told you they are going to take our safety away. And only one of you guys in the commissioners asked them, how do you plan on keep them safe? And that's where the whole 6-foot wall came to play. That's not enough. They cannot be part of this community area. There's schools, there's families. So please don't approve it. It is that simple, you know. You do not have to approve this. That's it. I will leave my letter, which is going to give you more information. Can I submit it? What do I do with this? I'm sorry. Thank you. May I go?
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. If you'd please state your name and address.
Hi, my name is Bonnie Roberts.
Is that on?
Is the mic on? Push it down, push it down.
Do you just want to come over here to podium 1?
Good morning. My name is Bonnie Roberts, and this is my mom, Ellen Hoyt. We live at 5033 South Horseshoe Circle. This recovery center would be built directly across from our house and would most likely lower our property value. We live directly across from where the emergency entrance and exit would be, thereby creating noise from the vehicle sirens going in and out. Some of our families have very small children, and we are concerned about their safety. My child, who is 2 years old, likes getting pushed in a stroller and riding his bike on the neighborhood road directly across from the north side of the proposed facility. We live in a small, very tight-knit neighborhood, and we want to keep it that way. We have lived there for 40 years. This proposed facility would bring a lot more traffic to our neighborhood road on the south side, as well as the north side, due to people missing the main entrance off Haverhill Road at the traffic light. Something was brought up about the 6-foot wall and that not needing the landscaping. That was put in the last time we all went through this, because as neighbors, we don't want this facility at all, but we also don't want to stare at a 6-foot wall. So that's why there was landscaping in there from the last time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Brian Mako. I live to the west of the property with 381 feet across the back. I've lived there for 36 years, raised 2 kids, and had a peaceful, great family, loved it. Horses, chickens, everything else. I feel like this whole thing's been, now when I go to retire, everything I work for has been taken away from me. I'll lose 17% on selling the house to move out somewhere. Okay, I had never intended on selling. I wanted to retire there and carry me out of there on a slab. Okay, I am so disappointed with Palm Beach County running roughshod over everybody's livelihood, and just for the sake of progress. Okay, what kind of progress is this when the residents can't even have a property and enjoy it? Okay, and as far as him saying how good of a steward he was, I cut the grass because he can't even cut the grass over there on the front. So I'm out there on my little tractor for the last 5 years cutting the grass. Okay, send him a letter in the mail. Do I get anything back? Can you cut the lawn? Is there you go by there today, and the grass is 2 foot high. Okay, so it's for him to say he's going to be a great steward and he's going to take care of us. Okay, you guys have to have some compassion for families and people that have been here and have paid their taxes and did everything right for the last 36 years. Okay, so take a hit on this and listen to this kind of stuff for the. What else do I have to add? Okay, I mean, let's get on board and do something right. Okay, and to add more people, to add more beds. Okay, you got anything to say, Dolly? This is my wife, Melissa.
The saying that a 6-foot wall is the accommodation for this project, we don't want the project at all anyway. We're driving down Haverhill today and see multiple empty lots that are available that aren't right in our neighborhood. It's ridiculous to choose the land that they chose to try to put this thing in. There are so many empty lots that you could put this in that won't impede our neighborhood. And so, I would have to ask, how could you ensure that this project, if it were ever to be built, which we don't want it built, would not impede the quality of life for us long-standing residents? It's absolutely absurd. And if each one of you on the commission asked yourself if you wanted that in right next to your house, I know you would say no. So, to push this down our throats is crazy. All right?
Yeah, one last comment in conclusion. I urge each and every one of you, before you decide on this, to drive down our road. You will drive past my house to the west, and you see how much this impedes us. To say that off of Haverhill, if you just drive up Haverhill, it looks like, oh, this is no big deal. Okay, and for that fellow to comment that it's like this all over Haverhill. No, there's churches up and down our area. There's 3 churches within a half a mile. A church does not infringe on our area there. It's this thing it comes all the way down our road and is like a octopus in your neighborhood that has tentacles that come all the way down. And so
Thank you for your comment, sir.
Michael,
thank you for your consideration.
Michael Williams. And then we also have a card from Yoel Cancelin, and I apologize, you did not want to speak? No, thank you. Thank you. Sir, go ahead if you'll state your name and address.
Yes, my name is Mike Williams, and I live at 5215 Horseshoe Circle North. I actually grew up in that community. I've been here for 40 years, and when I see what's going on right now, it's a total disgrace, and I don't think that this is right. We live in a community that has 17 homes. Most people don't even know that that community exists because of the uniqueness of this community. And to see that the county is allowing them to come in and to totally destroy the neighborhood that we have lived in all this time, raising our kids and our grandkids, it's a total travesty of justice. We're just talking about saying the Pledge of Allegiance a while ago, and we're talking about justice and all of that. But where exactly is the justice that you guys are talking about? I guarantee you that not one single one of you sitting up there today would want this in the community that you live in. I have to walk with my grandkids in this neighborhood day after day, and to come up and see them doing this and destroying our neighborhood like this is a total travesty of justice, a total injustice of what we expect here. You have older people living there to the south, Central Village, and we're putting these people at risk also. And I know Central Village is a very large community, and they have very good, they have very strong pull in this county. So maybe what we need to do is we need to get and combine ourselves with Central Village, that all of us can come together to fight this craziness and this madness that is being pushed on us here today. I think it's wrong. I think it's totally and completely wrong. You have Oxbridge right there around the corner, right from us, a few maybe not even a quarter of a mile, right sitting on the other side of the road. And we're talking about bringing people who have mental issues and all these type of things. My daughter is a former Marine. My son-in-law is a former Marine, and I know and see what goes on with these people and what the problems that they do face. So I don't really want that in my community. I don't want that in my community at all. And I'm asking you guys to do something and exercise some discretion. And as Brian said a while ago, maybe some of you guys up there should take a drive around our street and see what it looks like. Because if you do that, you'd realize that this is wrong.
All right, thank you. Is that all the comment cards? Sure. All right, great. Now I'm going to try this again and go back to, do we have any questions for staff or the applicant? And I'll go back and start with Barbara and go down the line again. Barbara, any further questions for applicant? Michael, or do you, Barbara?
I have a question for staff.
Okay.
Question for staff. The other properties that are available, I've heard the public reference other properties along Haverhill. I'm familiar with that area, that stretch, and I have driven it recently. Are those other properties comparable in size? We're talking about basically 4 acres here. I'm just curious, as you head north on Haverhill, did staff look at other comparable size lots?
So this is a private application, so they're coming in because they own it or have a contract on this particular parcel. So we evaluate this site specifically. We don't consider, we don't look at other sites and say, hey, maybe that would have been a better location for this. Yeah. We reviewed this site.
Right. I understand this isn't a county-initiated. I do get that, but I wondered whether anyone looked at that in terms of what's available along there that would not intrude on a residential community.
You know, there are some larger lots when you go past the Horseshoe neighborhood, and there's an institutional future land use designation. See if we have that map. Right up in
But
here.
is it correct that there are some lots along Haverhill that are open? I think that's...
We probably would not really know if they're available, or if it's, again, it's subject to the owner wanting, again, these are beyond our control in terms of that. We would not go and recommend, other sites, not having site control, no knowledge.
I realize if someone has not put in an application of an initiative, yeah. Thank you.
Michael?
All right, so now I have a couple questions. Can we look at the site, and I'd like to see where this emergency entrance is located on the site?
Yeah.
Almost there you go. So this is the proposed site plan with north facing up. The proposed emergency fire access is right here. You all can see that on the north side.
See the red pointer?
Northwest of the site.
Thank you.
So it's the furthest west of the property, north side.
Yeah, so Haverhill is on the right-hand side of the screen, and then Horseshoe Circle South is on the north, on the top part of the screen, north.
Hold on, Michael still has the floor. Michael, any other questions?
I thought that was the adjacent property on the north side, not a road.
That's a road.
It's a private road.
It's a private road.
Okay.
Made up by the owners of the properties in that neighborhood.
Okay.
Sure.
Another question I had was, what was this there was some sort of aggregate housing approved for this site previously. What was that, and also when was that approved, just to kind of get a little bit of reference at how long this potential site has been going through a rezoning process?
Yeah, so in 2018 there was a zoning application. It went from AR to from AR agricultural residential to PUD, and then there was an approval for a 47-bed Type 3 congregate living facility, but that wasn't built.
Okay. And then I guess for the applicant, typically, I guess I have a question as far as the drop-offs for patients. One of the residents said that they don't want to hear sirens in the community. Is that typical for patients to be dropped off in that fashion, or what kind of is the process for new
patients coming in? Yes. It is very atypical for ambulance to come in and drop someone off. Typically, patients come in on their own volition, or they are transferred sometimes with a family member, or they travel if they need to. So I'm not going to say it doesn't happen. If there's a medical emergency, an EMT is going to come to treat a patient. If a patient has extremely high COWS or CWAS, or there's, as I said, a medical emergency, they will come. So it's atypical, but I'm not going to tell you it doesn't happen.
And for a 100-bed facility, what would be the ratio for nurses or staff that would be typically showing up on a daily basis?
So I operate a 72-bed facility in a residential area in Miami. There's 100 staff there. We have around 20 nurses that are employed at that location. There's 2 psychiatrists. There's a medical director. There's a DON. So it's a 1-to-1 ratio. There's also CMTs that are there. There's 24/7 security on site that are done by certified medical technicians. We have ample staff to make sure that every single patient has the ability to speak with an employee at any time of the day, night or day.
I'm just trying to get an idea of how many. I know there was a traffic study in it. But as far as how many additional vehicles, how much parking there is. So on a daily basis, if there's 100 beds, there would be over 100 staff there?
No.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Because staff have 8-hour shifts. So similar to a hospital system, individuals would come in on 8 hours. So typically a shift starts at around 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock. They would be there till 4. Then you'd have a shift change at 4 o'clock. There aren't as many people on the 4 to 12 shift because there is programming that exists from 8 to 4 when they do see their therapist. They see a psychiatric nurse practitioner if they need to. So you have more staff during the day hours of 8 to 4. And then you have security staff, there's a cook on site. There's the ability, because you're living there, to have all those other services from 4 to 12. And then clearly there's overnight staff at the same time. With rounds, we do Q15s. So every 15 minutes, people are walking around. There's also security on cameras on site. The barrier wall was put up, I believe, into the plan at the request of the neighbors at the same time. We want to be able to ingratiate into our neighborhoods when we operate. If you look at our facility, Singer Island Health, that is completely ingratiated into a residential community. We have no problems there. I'll tell you that for a fact.
Okay, that's all the questions I have.
Thank you. Marissa?
Yep. Any more for me, or can I sit down?
No, we're good. Thank you.
Well, I have a question.
Well,
for
unless
the,
Marissa does. You might have more questions from
Okay.
the commission.
I have a question for the applicant. So, the terms, it says residential and rehabilitation, or rehabilitation. Does
Yeah.
that encompass substance abuse disorders?
Yes, it does. It does include substance abuse. So when individuals do come in, a lot of times they can be drinking alcohol or they could be taking some sort of narcotic at the same time. So there is a stabilization that occurs with that. If you are familiar with behavioral health, the two kind of go hand in hand. A lot of patients self-diagnose or self-treat. So I'm not going to say to you that it doesn't occur with substance abuse.
Thank you for being honest. What sort of security do you have to make sure that these patients are not, leaving the premises?
Absolutely. As I kind of said with my first answer, we have 24/7 staffing on site.
Okay.
So there are certified medical technicians, behavioral health technicians that are there.
Are the doors locked so that they cannot leave?
It's not a psychiatric facility. This is a volunteer for people to come in and get better on their own volition. This is not a psychiatric ward. This is not schizophrenic where people need to be locked up or Baker acted at their own capacity. This is individuals who are volunteering to try and rehabilitate
So
themselves.
they could some of them could potentially just check themselves out?
If they want to leave, we provide transport to a safe location at that time. Safe location would either be a hospital system, could be a bus stop, could be back to an area of transportation that they want to go to. We provide that all the time. I do that of all of our other facilities. As I said, we ingratiate with the communities in which we operate. They're not just going to walk off campus. It's not going to happen.
My final question. So I noticed that the main entrance is on a private road. Did you ever think about making it on a main road?
Yeah, the main entrance is on Haverhill.
Oh, it's on Haverhill.
Yeah,
Okay.
it
All
was, I believe, through staff suggestion, and I'll defer to Randall, who's the land use planner, where, they wanted additional access through Horseshoe Road, which is why a lot of the constituents and residents, wanted an element of privacy.
Did you do any kind of community outreach before?
We did.
Okay.
I went and spoke with all of them. I told them to go look at our facility that's in Singer Island. We have, I believe it's a Calusia fence that's up around that whole neighborhood. We have nurses that are on site. If they walk around, they talk with the other citizens that are in that community. I encourage them to go talk with those other residents. We don't have any issues there. I don't have any issues at all in my facilities, to be honest with you. I sympathize and I understand with hearing about this and what this has an impact on. But I think as citizens of the U.S., it's my job to help rehabilitate. That's one of my services that I provide. I'm passionate about that. So you telling me I can't help people? Imagine how I feel at that point in time. So brothers and sisters and families and friends, you want to be able to get them better. We have top 5% outcomes in the country. I do not want to negatively impact the residential area in which we operate. We ingratiate, we make sure that we provide the security associated with what the constituents want. But we haven't run into these issues before. I don't anticipate running into them ever again.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your efforts and the reasoning behind why you do what you do.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that it, Marissa? All right, Sherry?
Is there a map that we could put up that we could see this this land in, where the homes are?
Is that one better?
Yeah. I've got to say that it's completely surrounded by residential, and I understand the community's concerns, and although I think it's admirable to help these types of facilities, and I know we desperately need more of them, but I've got to agree, I do not see that this is compatible in that area. I think there's other places that could facilitate a facility like this. I don't think it's there. My 2 cents.
All right. Any questions for staff or applicant? You're next, sir.
All right. All right. Since we just got the site plan, I do have a number of questions about the site plan. I guess just staff. Is this all single story?
Yes, all single story.
All single story. Okay. Typically, other projects that you've seen that are like that, do you see the intensity of land usage as high? I would think that a living facility would have a lot more green space and some park space for the people to like really move around and do stuff. I don't see a lot of green space on this. Is that typical of what you guys approve?
Here, I can speak to that question.
Yeah, we have. I think we have a zoning representative here.
All right, I'll take this one on. There's competing objectives involved. You either push the mass down, which means it takes up more space, or you build a taller building and you get more green space. I think the idea behind this, and I'm trying to understand what zoning is doing and what we were looking at, is that the idea was if it has lower, single story, it may take up more space, but it is less intrusive. The building, yes, may be closer. That's also why there's a condition for a wall. There will also be zoning requirements for a buffer to further obscure it. And that's also why the emergency access is there, and it's required to be gated with an opaque gate. So it will only be used if the fire department ever has to respond and pull out that way. That's why it's there, so they don't have to reverse the trucks. That's why that's there. So this is an attempt to reduce, to the extent possible, to make it as least intrusive. It's a value judgment as to whether you go vertical and pull it further away, or you make it lower and potentially less visible, but maybe slightly closer. And you then address that through the compatibility of buffering. And how do you make that more compatible?
And generally speaking, this has a pretty low F floor area ratio, some less than 0.2. So I think that kind of just adds.
Is that by changing the designation? Is that by right? Is that what would be allowed?
So an institutional flu in the urban suburban tier, you can do up to 0.45. So they're well below that max FAR.
Okay. All right. So when the planning staff suggested the secondary route, and I'm assuming this came up fairly initial in the process, was the circular route not thought to end back up on Haverhill? Was there any reason why the road couldn't just circle around the property?
That's not a planning staff recommendation. That's a fire rescue requirement. So
I understand the requirement of the secondary space, and that should have come up pretty early in the stage. But did the fire rescue specifically state that it has to be on that side road, or could it have circled around the property and come back onto Haverhill? Because they just need the fire engine to get back out.
that Lisa's development as well.
Yeah.
Let's let Jerome Small.
Hi, excuse me, Lisa Merritt, the zoning director. Do you have any questions for zoning? I heard a question about typical and open space. There's no typical with a proposal for any kind of land use. They come in and they propose what they do. They have parking regs, buffers. There's no minimum requirement for green space or open space. So there's no way for us to tell you about what is the typical operator design. It is what it is. But did you have another question while I was walking downstairs?
Not for zoning. This was more of
I think you actually do, because the site plan is at the zoning stage. So this is the land use
phase. So the site plan is running concurrently, so zoning can answer the site planning related questions.
Yeah, it's not in the purview of the Planning Commission, really, to review the site plan. That's under the purview of the Zoning Commission. Palm Beach County has a zoning commission and a planning commission, but there is a relationship, as you know, every month as you meet on these projects, with the design and the request.
We understand that. The reason these questions are coming up is because of the concerns of the secondary access point. So my question is, for the secondary access point, was it a requirement by fire that it needs to be on the side road, or could it have come back onto Haverhill?
Yeah, okay, the requirement is because of that building on the northern property line. The driveway with fire rescue, if it would, that building or that driveway was greater than 150 feet, they needed a way out. With fire rescue, if it's less than 150 feet, I guess they can drive down and then back out. But that was specifically required, but it's a consequence of the length of the building and the design of that drive access way. If it was shorter and it was less than 150 feet, fire rescue wouldn't require that, because, you know, at zoning level 2, we support the residents and the concept that you don't have this extra emergency drive, but fire rescue standards with the fire code are not something that we can, you know, argue with.
I understand. So in essence, the applicant's design is what's creating the necessity for that secondary access, and if the design were to be changed, that would possibly take away from that.
Yeah, and we worked very closely with the applicant. The original design had buildings in the upper left area. As zoning director, I'm very cognizant of the setback for structures to the street. So we had them actually remove the building that they had, which is now, I don't have my glasses on, so I think it's open space or water up there. They had a building like right there at the corner. But, you know, this is a delicate balance with compatibility. When zoning is looking at compatibility, we are looking in the context of moving the buildings around to try to get the best possible project. The decision that you guys are charged with is this land use designation for institutional, of course, appropriate at this location. So, you know, that's the difference of the relationship with the site plan and your role.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I have a question for the applicant. Thank you.
Just on the record, I'm not the applicant. I'm the tenant and operator, but I'm answering questions because I think that's pertinent right now for what you guys are asking about.
No, fair enough.
Okay.
You mentioned that you did have some talks with the residents. Do you know the number of times and at what stage of this process did you have these talks?
Yeah, to my recollection, it was around 3 or 4 months ago when we put together a site plan, and we brought site plans over to the existing property, spoke with them. There was a community meeting that was announced in advance. We listened to a lot of their concerns. I believe that the site plan includes a lot of their concerns at the same time, which was the 6-foot border wall, the landscape wall. You know, we offered to provide landscaping on their properties as well, if that was something that they wanted, to provide privacy. We didn't say that we wanted to have access on the emergency horseshoe road. In fact, we would prefer not to have it if possible. But I think, as your colleague mentioned, from a zoning perspective, there are certain requirements that the site does require from planning and zoning. So if we could keep it so there wasn't impeding, you know, their residential neighborhood, that would be preferred. I don't know if that's an option that's outside of my purview, but we did have a conversation, and I spoke with them about what our other sites are like and the fact that they are in a residential community, and what that looks like. One of them is on Blue Heron Boulevard, just on the other side in Singer Island.
Okay.
On Singer
Thank
Island.
you,
Yeah.
applicant.
Yeah.
And one more last question for staff. When you're proposing a wall that's facing a residential community, is there any reason that landscaping buffering is not being proposed? I don't see any at all on this site plan. So, I mean, shouldn't there be like a tree line or a hedge line, possibly a sidewalk, whatever that is, to create a buffer? between a neighborhood, residential neighborhood, and a institutional and/or commercial?
Those items are really zoning purview. There are certain code requirements that requires landscaping on both sides and things like that. So we tend to
Condition of the wall.
just the wall, because we know that that is going to be something that would be needed. Rather than the zoning code does allow different options, fences, things that are opaque, but we really, in this particular case, feel that for compatibility issue of wall is necessary.
So if you approve the land use, you're approving also it with the condition of the wall, no matter what goes there from a site plan perspective, if that helps.
So it's more restrictive than.
All right, I think I'm done with my questions for now.
Great. Thank you. Rick?
Thank you, Chair. I know this area really well. I owned a condo at Pine Ridge at Haverhill 40 years ago. I can't even believe I'm saying 40 years ago, but in 1984, that was the first property I purchased in Palm Beach County when this area was all pretty much farmland. There was very little construction. But since that time, you know, the Pine Ridge units, which are just a little bit north and east of there, are 2-story. Tennis Club is 4-story, maybe 5, if I recall correctly. Century Village, which predates all of this, is at least 3 stories in the area. You know, usually when we see these projects come before us, we have a little more detail from the applicant. This site plan is a little difficult to evaluate, but from what I can see, it looks like on the northwest portion here, is that a retention pond? That
is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Not sure the wisdom of that, but that's a different discussion. My real concern with this is that I am very cognizant of the concerns of the residents, and because you're taking 31,000 square feet and sprawling it in an effort to keep it 1 story, I think, and I can't tell you what to do, it's your project, but from my point of view, I think if to even remotely consider this, if you went to a 2-story entity, pushed the action to Haverhill so that on the north and west areas, anything that was facing the residential areas, you had little to no activity, your parking, anything that could be concealed behind walls, et cetera, and all of your ingress and egress is on Haverhill, so it doesn't impact the other communities. You know, unless and until I saw anything that remotely approached that level of it, I wouldn't even be in a position to consider this. As it sits at the present, I would not be in favor of it. I think it does encroach and it does disrupt the residents in the area. I think there is line of sight precedent, if you will, to go a little higher as long as it's done in a proper fashion. And you would also then, by opening up more traffic space, meet the fire rescue requirements, and maybe you wouldn't have to have any other ingress and egress except onto Haverhill. I have to defer to fire rescue and zoning on that. It's out of my purview. But for those reasons and the questions that my colleagues have already put forth, I would not be in favor of it as it sits at the present time. Thanks.
Serge?
I have a question for the applicant. When you say that the patients or residents, when they're done, they transition out, what does that process consist of?
When a patient is ready to discharge,
Right.
they're required to have a next level of care for whatever that might be appropriate to. Sometimes that means going back to their residence where they live full-time. Sometimes it can be outside of the county. But our discharge planners and our therapists are required to have a transitionary care set up for them at that point in time. So that could be going to transitionary housing where they have outpatient treatment. It could be going home where they have virtual treatment at that point in time. But there is a level of care that has a continuity for their continuum.
Are these patients in the county, or they're coming from outside of the county, or both?
In Miami, most of our patients there are from the state, so they're not all from Palm Beach County. Sometimes they come from Broward County, from Indian River, St. Lucie County. It just depends.
Okay.
You know, we try and treat a lot of the constituents in the areas that we treat, but that doesn't mean that everyone wants to go to a location for your healthcare services directly adjacent to where you live.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
And I just have a comment. my father, my dad owns a property in Gramercy Park since 1996, and for me growing up in the community and seeing the changes that's happening, and even talking to the people in the community about this project when I found out about it, and me personally, I'm in agreement with them. It doesn't match what the community is or what it should be going forward. So with that, I'm not in favor of this plan.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Brent.
I want to ask a little more along the lines of what Commissioner DeHady asked, and that is your market, and this is a question for the applicant tenant. Can you repeat again where you expect most of your clients to come from?
I can tell you that in our facility in Miami, most of our clients are from the state of Florida, for the most part. I can't guarantee that all clients come from the state of Florida. Sometimes they come from adjacent locations, but down in Miami, that's typically the way that facility operates.
Thank you. Yeah, when I hear the local residents' concerns about compatibility, and land use compatibility, sure, but neighborhood compatibility, I do have an issue with folks coming into an area that, where the neighbors are concerned about whether their safety is at risk for any number of reasons. And so I'm not really in support of this change, particularly having heard from the neighbors and understanding what their concerns are. And as I said, from a land use compatibility thing, it's one thing, but when you really drill down, I think there's more to it than that. So, but thank you for presenting. I appreciate that.
Yep.
All right. So I have a quick question for the tenant applicant. You had mentioned earlier about stabilization if they come in with substance abuse or substance with alcohol or drugs. Are you going to have an on-site detox?
There is a medical stabilization element to that level of care. Yeah, that's a 3.7 ASAM level of care that occurs.
Okay. I think the rest of my questions were answered that I had on here for that, so I don't have any further questions. Any other comment? Thank you.
Yep.
Any other comments from the commission? I know we kind of rolled that all into one, but any other comments from the commission? Yes.
I do. I want to thank staff for indulging Planning Commission and the zoning director for coming down. I've been on this commission for 6.5 years, and I know I've had my wrist slapped a number of times because I've stepped into zoning issues. I really do understand the distinction, but this is the absolute perfect example of a situation where we need to have some of these zoning issues addressed at the time of an up or down on a planning decision. So I thank you for your time and your indulgence, staff. I could not make this decision fairly without some of the input on zoning issues. So I do thank you, and going forward, there are going to be times like this where you just can't make a land use decision in a vacuum. I've said that a long time, and, I thank you.
Any other comments? Yep. Okay.
I also want to thank the zoning director for answering my questions. I know I was overstepping a little bit, but we needed some background to be able to correctly assess this, and I like Commissioner Roth said, it does help us a lot because we can't just look at the text and the compatibility issues without taking the specifics of what you guys are doing to realize if this is actually going to be, if our decision will help or hinder you guys, whatever that ends up being. So I do want to thank staff for what they've done and for answering the questions in detail on that. My comments kind of still fall on, I'd ask those specific questions because, again, when we're talking about compatibility issues, I mean, to me, this is almost an urban sprawl. It's a very busy property. There's a lot of stuff going on it. When you're looking at a residential neighborhood in the area, I think that, you know, if the scale was slightly smaller, maybe the answers would look different. I'm not even sure if the answer was 2 stories like my fellow commissioner stated. I just think that the project probably, if it was slightly smaller, slightly more towards the front half of the property, maybe there could have been some possibilities of us thinking about compatibility. But right now, the way it stands, I don't feel that this is compatible for that area. I commend the applicant for trying to do what he's doing, but I do recommend that if he's going to plan to adjust or do something in the future with this lot, to be much more active with the community and see what they want, because the community voice does matter, and I think we up here do listen to that. So that's my comments. Sorry.
All right. Any further comments from the commission? My only comment is that, you know, I knew the Higgins, right? Higgins Electric, and done business with them. And when because there used to be a business there, just so everyone's clear, there was a business right there. And I remember pulling in there and thinking to myself, how in the heck are they running a business out of here? And it was very chaotic. But what they did that's a little different than here, one, it was very secluded. And it was always busy in the morning, like maddening, from like 7 a.m. And then there was nothing there all day. And then it was a little maddening in the afternoon, 4 or 5 o'clock. Yeah. And then it was quiet, you know. So it was a little different. And I feel like Mr. and Mrs. Higgins did everything they could to keep the community a community. I'm not sure if this is the right fit for that. So those are my comments. And with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Can we,
I'm sorry.
They're not letting us.
Would you like to make
You can make the motion. I was going to make a comment, but...
Marissa, go ahead. I'll recognize Marissa to make a comment.
I'm very, very familiar with Century Village. I spent a lot of time there. You should really meet with that community to find a use that they're going to be in favor of. I don't know a medical treatment facility with like a substance abuse component is going to be something they're ever going to be in favor of. So you should really meet with them to see if there's something that maybe everyone can work out and there's a good use, or, you know, constructing your business in a way that all of the surrounding communities see a community benefit and value.
Okay, with that, I'll close the comments and entertain a motion.
Move to deny the application.
Second.
Okay, so just to clarify.
Could we get a clarification on who the second was, please? There was a lot of voices.
I'll take the second.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So I want to make sure I'm clarifying this. So there's a motion to deny, and I want to read it. Assessments and recommendation. Is this correct? The amendment proposes to change the future land use designation on 3.97 acre site located on the urban suburban tier on the west side of North Haverhill Road from median residential 5 units per acre to institutional public facilities and underlying 5 units per acre. The site has not been subject of a previous land use amendment and currently supports a vacant single-family home. The current zoning application is proposing to develop a 100-bed skilled nursing residential facility. Is that correct?
I think the motion is just simply to deny the Haverhill Recovery Facility land use application.
Perfect. I just wanted to clarify what we were denying. Thank you.
Who was the second? I can have Sherry for the
second.
first. Who's the second?
Surge.
Surge. Thank you.
Okay, we'll do a roll call vote.
Barbara.
On motion to deny, yes.
Yes, this calls for motion to deny. Michael Cuevas.
Motion to deny, yes.
Serge D. Haiti.
Yes.
Ankur Patel,
Yes.
Rick Stopik,
Yes.
Brian Stenberg,
Yes.
Verissa Laudas,
Yes.
Sherry Scarborough,
Yes.
John Carr.
Yes.
Motion passes to deny.
Okay, thank you. All right, nothing else on the agenda. I'm going to move to updates and comments from commission members. Any commission members have anything? Brian?
I would like for our commission to join me in congratulating Commissioner Laudas on her election to the Port of Palm Beach Commission. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
You're a dual commissioner.
That's right.
And it's just such an honor to serve alongside all of you. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other commissioners? Yes? Rick?
Me? I will not be in attendance at the December meeting since I will be visiting Mickey's Very Merry Christmas with my grandkids. So I want to take this opportunity to wish everyone in the room a very happy holiday season, best of health and happiness for the new year, and happy Thanksgiving as well. And look forward to seeing everybody in January.
Thank you.
I wanted to first of all thank everybody for supporting me the past, I guess, the year that I wasn't here. While I was chair, I truly appreciate everybody for giving me time to really get into that role and to do that. I do want to thank the current chair for really supporting me through that process. He was very, very, very good with handling cards and pushing these buttons right here. I'm not going to question the button pushing skills, where they come from, but I do really appreciate all the help that he had given, and I do want to thank Rick also for the mentorship to get me to there. So thank you. Everybody's been great for the year I was, and I'm happy to be on the other side of the table, so now I can give them a hard time.
Thank you. I've been told all my life I push everybody's buttons, so I get it, you know. Sure. Any other commission members, comments? All right, great, thank you. Planning Zoning Board, Planning Commission, Executive Director, anything, PZB?
Congratulations, Commissioner. Just wanted to clarify on the small-scale amendment. We do understand what you're saying about the site plans and seeing them at the same time. Small-scale amendments do require a concurrent site plan to run along with it. Sometimes when we bring you the large-scale amendments, they won't have a site plan vetted out as much as this one did. And so your questions, we understand, and we take that into consideration, even though it could influence it moving forward. So we understand. Thank you.
Can I just ask one question regarding this? Typically, do we get input from the community in the form of letters with this packet, or was this just they didn't respond early enough, or because that feedback from the community obviously would have been nice to have some sort of base of their input prior to the meeting?
Yeah, so we did receive, and Peter could add some more to this, we did receive a few phone calls asking for information, but from what I understand, we didn't receive any negative comments, and we didn't receive any correspondence, so that's why there wasn't anything included in the packet.
Because that's what I read, and so that's why I was a little surprised not to have any feedback from the neighbors, and then obviously today there was some pretty significant pushback, so kind of was a little bit on my heels seeing no input, and then of course there was a lot of community input.
Yeah.
Well, there's only 17 owners, I guess, but still it was, so so I guess it's just case by case that may be the case.
Yeah, and sometimes we're surprised too. We come to the hearing and then there's a room full of people that we weren't expecting. So
Right.
It's just kind of how it works sometimes.
And for something like this, does that reach to the community start? What's the time frame? Is it 3 months? Is it 6 months? Is it
So 45 days after the application is found sufficient, we require that the agent post signs on the property. So there are signs up for, months and months prior to these applications coming to hearing. And then about 3 weeks prior to the Planning Commission, we send notices with the dates, the information related to the proposal, a map, and then contact information for staff should they have any questions.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
To add to his question, what is the proximity of the communities that receive the follow-up?
Yeah, that's a great question. So within the urban suburban tier, there's a requirement that we send notices of 500 feet. 500 and we also send notices to known interested parties. So should someone contact us after the signs are posted, we will also send them a notice. We send, notices to Cobra, Delray Alliance, all of those other known interested parties where there's an application in their area.
Right.
And then if it's outside of the urban suburban tier, specifically rural and exurban tier, because the lot sizes are larger, we have 1,000 feet a requirement.
Okay. I mean, specifically for this project, I spoke to a resident of Century Village, and they had no idea about this project.
I had
Yeah.
that thought as well.
So this one actually had almost 1,000 notices we sent out, and a lot of them were for the Century Village residents. That captured, when there's condos, it captures the whole entire condo
And no feedback?
complex. Yeah, just a few
They're
phone.
usually all over this stuff.
We were surprised as well. Yes. Yeah.
I remember that was probably 15, 20 years ago when there was some discussion about doing something with the golf course there.
Yeah.
We should develop the golf course.
I remember that. Yeah.
And not one out of 1,000 popped up.
All right.
Well,
Went to the Century Village and
they
built it.
certainly could show up at the BCC meeting, right?
That's right.
There's still,
Yeah.
Remember, there's still another meeting, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
They travel in herds.
I had a sign question as well.
And go ahead.
If I may.
Yes, go ahead.
So on the north side of this property is a private road, and then you have Haverhill on the east side. Would there be a sign on the north side as well, on the private road?
Yeah, so any road frontage, they're required to provide one sign per 500 feet, I believe it is,
Okay, thank you.
with no more than 10 signs for the whole property.
Great, thank you.
Just one last clarification to add to your. So, coming from the Downtown Action Committee, every packet we would have would always include the site plan. Obviously, these are pretty large-scale developments. So, what you were saying is because this was a smaller scale development, we don't always get to review the site plan prior to the meeting. Was that what I could take from your comment?
This is a small-scale
amendment.
amendment to the
Land use
comprehensive plan,
Right.
but we require our small-scale amendments to run concurrently with the zoning application.
Correct.
So with a small-scale amendment, you're likely to have a more fleshed-out site plan to go with it, which we had in this situation. So when it's a large-scale amendment, you have a transmittal hearing before the BCC and then an adoption hearing before the BCC. And so you're going to hear it before the transmittal hearing. And so at that point, the site plan may not be as well baked as it would be for the adoption hearing, because at the adoption hearing, they're going to have a concurrent zoning hearing at the same time. Does that make sense?
Yes. I'm just trying to understand, because I think your comment was it would have been beneficial to see these emergency exits, have a little bit better. I know we're not going to always get that because the project isn't necessarily fleshed out at that point. I guess, is that...
And they may not even have made a zoning submittal at the time you're seeing a large-scale amendment, right?
Right.
And I think you're talking about the city of West Palm, that you're familiar with their process.
Right.
That process is probably a more integrated process.
Most cities do more detailed review of their site plan, and again, there's a shorter amount of time between your land use and your site plan. Also, often by the time you see some of these things, we've already pushed as much as staff could do, without designing it for them, which is not our project.
Right.
So if you'd seen the first initial site plan, you would
Zoning
not.
staff
Yeah.
spent a lot of time with them.
So at least, it's been at least for the layout that they have, zoning staff would have, in coordination with planning, advise them of certain things and what to look for at these meetings. But ultimately, they need to make the best choices for their client, and hence see the results.
Yeah, and I guess just specifically with this case, not seeing the site plan until we got here, it definitely did have an effect as far as thinking about, okay, well, if there's emergency vehicles going up and down this road, I could have thought of that prior to, and I maybe would have just been able to have a better understanding of kind of how this was going to work within the community. But we didn't see that until now. So, and that's fine. I mean, but I'm just trying to understand, is that going to be kind of standard? And I don't think there is a standard answer, right? It's how much is necessarily they're going to flesh out, how much money they're going to spend developing a plan when they don't know if it's going to be even approved for a zoning change yet. We don't.
Yes.
Right? I mean, that's the question. How much can they go? How far can they go when they don't even know if they have a zoning approval?
Yeah, so it's a balance for us when we do the staff report. We do try to include as much information related to the zoning application within the staff report, so you all have an idea of what's going on. But we don't include the zoning application because that's not the purview of this board. So we try to provide as much information we can that will inform you all in your decisions without kind of opening it up to the zoning commission discussions, which are more applicable there.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Just kind of new on the board, so and want to learn as much as I can, be as prepared as I can for these meetings, obviously as possible.
Just for your purview, Stephanie's really easy to get a hold of, and she does provide any information. I've asked her in the past for stuff like that, and she emails it to me. So if you see something in your packet, which you get about a week before, and if it's something that you think, you can always ask her, and she will send it to you.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, great. Anything else from our executive director? No? All right. Our county attorney, anything?
No comments.
Fantastic. Planning director?
Nothing, thank you.
All right, thank you. Only thing, do we know if we're going to, December meeting looks good?
I think we're going to cancel. It depends on if we have a small
It's 'cause
scale
of Rick.
certified.
It's because of Rick?
It's so Rick can go to Disney.
We're going to Disneyland. Disney. So, hey, just a quick reminder, there's November 22nd, there's a workshop. So if you haven't received the email, it'll be a great workshop up in Jupiter. I know I'll be there this year. Last year I got sick the day before, so I wasn't able to make it. I think Serge is going to be there with me. So for all our planning commission members. It's for planning. I'll let probably staff can explain it better than me. I was just voluntold that I should be there. But it's about how to be effective on the planning, more effective on the planning commission.
Yeah,
Right.
it's planning officials training.
That's a good word. I like
I did
that.
it last year, and it was very helpful.
It's not.
So I recommend
It's
it.
not specific to Palm Beach County.
Yeah, it's not
but
specific to Palm Beach County. It's about how to be more effective on boards and commissions and things like this. So I was highly encouraged to attend. So I was like, geez, am I doing that bad? If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All right.
All right, that's it.